Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. I'm Joey Calvo. Our podcast is part of the World Podcast Network, now with over 1,100 podcasts. Visit the World Podcast Network at https://worldpodcast.network to listen to podcasts in over 12 genres. Come vote our podcast episodes up and help us rise to the leaderboard. If you have a podcast of your own, you can join for free. So today, I have Farzin Mazinani, and he empowers people to achieve balanced success in health, wealth, relationships, and happiness. He's a life coach, award-winning author, and dedicated joyful transformation coach and mentor. Certified emotion code practitioner, certified belief clearing practitioner, and the creator of a modality called Joyful Fix Quantum Healing. Farzin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so tell us about. Sorry about that. Tell us about Farzin. Farzin?
Yeah.
Tell me about yourself.
Sure. Okay, so let me start from the time that I was 12 years old. So normally a 12-year-old kid is just playing around and busy with school and other things that they are learning at that stage. And we all have had that experience. But something was missing in my life. I was looking for more meaning. And what is the source of all truth and the source of all joy? I was looking for those answers, and I would ask my teachers and my parents about those kind of things, and I couldn't get clear answer. What is the ultimate truth? Because everybody has a version of it, and it is all different based on our perspective and based on our experience. But I wanted to find the main thing, not the shadow of the truth, just the truth. And that gives me joy and happiness. So what happened was I didn't have access to internet because I'm talking about many years ago, about 40 something years ago. We didn't have internet. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have the things that we have right now to be able to research and do our homework and find out more about different things that is available. The only thing that I had at the time was books, access to books. So what happened was that in a period of 12 years, I started going through many books. I had more than 1,000 books in my personal library. And I went through a lot of different paths, because I wanted to find the truth. Sometimes, someday I was doing this and the other day I was doing that. So I was switching back and forth because I wasn't satisfied with whatever I was receiving. It wouldn't give me the clear answer that I was looking for. So after 12 years and reading that many books, I was even more confused than the starting point. Because when you don't know, you don't know. When you start knowing, you find out that there are a lot that you don't know. So I was even more confused. What did I do? I was so frustrated. I wanted to find the answer myself. So I decided to make a radical decision. What was it? Self-isolation. I trapped myself in a room and closed the door, turned the light off. There was no windows on that room. So it was absolute darkness and absolute silence. I said that I'm going to sit in here until I find the answer to the questions, the main questions that I have. And so it took me about close to 5 days. When I came out of that room, It took me 5 days. But I didn't know the passage of time, because when it's absolute darkness, you don't know if it's day or night or what time it is outside. You don't know anything. You are isolated from everything external. So you are in there facing yourself, your thoughts and your emotions and whatever you have inside. So the thing that brought me out of that room was an experience that I had. So during that experience, it is hard to describe it, but the way that I can describe it is that I felt a warm feeling in my heart and it spread all over my body. I started sweating and shaking, and all of a sudden there was light and there was music, heavenly music inside. It wasn't from outside, because outside was absolute darkness and absolute silence. But from inside, it was a different story. I was connected to something that I never experienced before. That was the source of all joy, and that was the source of all wisdom. And that was inside me, actually, not outside, because I was looking for that on the outside world. I was looking for it in the wrong place. I found that in that experience. And that is the story of the acres of diamond. That farmer who sold his farm to go and find diamond, he went all over the world and died in the way. But the other farmer who bought the farm found a piece of stone, polished it, it was shiny, took it to the jeweler, and the jeweler says, it is diamond. Where did you find it? And they went and found the the largest diamond mine in Africa
Hmm.
was in that farm, that the first farmer sold it to the other person to go and find the diamond. So that is the story for us. Sometimes we are looking for things on the outside, but it's actually inside. And during that experience, I found that whatever we see on the outside world is just a reflection of whatever we have on the inside. Because we all see different things, we all have different experiences. In my book, I have an example of four people who are passing a crossroad. One is a car dealer paying attention to the cars, their models, and so on. The other one is a construction worker, and he is looking at the buildings and the cracks on the buildings and how he can repair those and those kind of things. And the other one is in the fashion business. She is paying attention to people's clothing and whatever they are wearing, their shoes and so on. And the other person had an argument at the office, and he is not seeing anything. He is in his head thinking about the argument that he had with his boss. So we are all in the same situation, but we are experiencing different things based on whatever that is happening inside us. So that was a big realization for me. It was a breakthrough, actually, that changed my life. So that was the first breakthrough I had. What was the second one was a few years after I hurt my back at work. And what happened was that I started accumulating a pain that is called chronic pain. When you carry a pain more than 6 months, it means it's chronic. And I was having that frozen shoulder almost every week. And I had to go to therapy to release my shoulder to be able to work again and be fine for a week or two. So that continued for 15 years, and nobody could find the source of that pain and point it to a specific muscle that was pulled or something like that, because nothing was showing up in the MRIs, and no specialist could help me, no drug could help me. So I was frustrated. So a friend of mine came and she said that maybe I can help you. I was suspicious, but I was frustrated enough to just accept her help. So she gave me a couple of phone calls and she said, I released some trapped emotions that you were carrying with yourself from the time of the accident. And I said, what is trapped emotion? And she explained that sometimes we have a specific emotion like anger, like jealousy, like grief, like the whatever it can be. There are lots of emotions that we experience in our life: stress, fear, and so on. So sometimes we cannot process that completely, so it is an unprocessed emotion that we carry. Why don't we process it? Because when we have that experience, instead of letting it go, we just hang on to it. We just keep thinking about it. I get mad at someone, and then I keep thinking about it. I mentalize it. I talk to other people about whatever experience I have with that person. So it goes on, and then it becomes a trapped emotion, something that we carry with ourselves. It gets trapped in our body. And then she explained that everybody on average is carrying more than 200 of those emotions. And those emotions paint our life. We see life through those filters of the trapped emotions. The experiences that we have is based on those trapped emotions. And she did something else too. She released my heart wall. And what is heart wall? When we have an experience that is traumatic, or a drama that we have with somebody else in our relationships, or sometimes it's grief. You lose a loved one or something like that. You go through the process of grief. And those are the reasons that we get broken heart. And broken heart is actually something real, because there was a scientist, a Japanese scientist. He found that there are lines on our heart which is similar to when your bone is cracked. You go take an x-ray and you see a line on your bone. It is similar to that. So we get those cracks on our heart based on the traumatic experiences that we have. So what happens is that, because heart is a very sensitive organ in our body, our subconscious mind creates a shelter around it to protect it. And what material the subconscious mind uses is the trapped emotions that we carry in our body. So we build a shelter around our heart. And that is the reason we cannot connect with ourselves properly. That is the reason we cannot connect with others properly. We start judging them and so on. That is the reason that our relationship with life is distorted. We think that life is hostile, life is our enemy. We have to be on our toes all the time, because it's distorted, because we don't have that kind of view with a clean heart. Our heart is protected but is in a shelter. It's like going to a bomb shelter after the country is under attack, and now we don't have any communication with outside world, and 10 years has passed from the war. We are still living in that shelter, the bomb shelter. The feeling is exactly the same. So you cannot see yourself properly, see others properly. You're always behind those walls. So she dismantled my heart wall, and my life changed again. So that was quite an experience, the second breakthrough that I had. And it changed the direction of my life, because I started helping others. I started going through the certifications under Dr. Bradley Nelson, and I started helping others with those kind of things, because I saw the results in myself. I wanted to give the same experience to others as well. So it changed the direction of my life. That was my second breakthrough. And do you want to hear about the third one?
Of course.
So sure. So the third one coupled that happened a couple of years ago. I went skiing and I fell down and I broke my scapula. Scapula is a big bone in the shoulder.
Hmm.
I went to the emergency, and the doctor took the MRI test, and he said that you broke your scapula. But how did you break it? I said, why? He said, this is a large bone, and I've seen this kind of fracture only in car accidents. Now just you have that fracture in the skin. And I explained to him that I'm a good skier. After 40 years of skiing, I never had an accident or something like that. But I was on a flat surface and I wasn't even going fast and nobody was around me. But somehow I fell down and I couldn't move my arm.
Mm.
And he was amazed about whatever he was hearing because it is not a normal experience. And I know that when something happens in your life which is not normal, it is a gift that I'm receiving from life as my friend. I consider life as my friend, not my enemy. And when I receive something, if I don't like it, it means that it is a gift wrapped in an ugly paper. So I had to dig down to see what gift is inside. So I said to myself, I cannot do anything with my left arm. They can't cast it. They just gave me those powerful, strong painkillers, and they said we cannot do much. You have to deal with it for 6 months, and it might get cured by itself. And I had that kind of scenario in my life. I couldn't use my left arm. I couldn't use the things that I normally do. So I said that maybe it is time for me to use my right hand and start writing the book that was overdue for a long time. I always wanted to write my book. I never had a chance to just time to spend on it because you have to focus. And now I had all that time. So I started writing, and something strange happened to me. Soon as I started writing my book, I noticed that I'm not taking the painkillers because I was taking those to be able to manage the pain that I had in my shoulder. Every slight movement of my left arm would take me to the place that was so painful, so I had to do something about it. But I was writing my book for 12 hours, 14 hours without even thinking about the pain and without even thinking about being tired or hungry or something of that sort. And I noticed that is the definition of flow. I knew about the flow state, being in a zone and its effects, but I never had the first hand experience with that. So that situation gave me the chance to have that experience, to be able to be a channel to write down the things that was even new for me. Because when you are in that state, those kind of wisdom just comes through your heart into your hand and you're just writing it. And so I had that kind of experience. So I finished writing my book in a couple of weeks, sent it for the publisher, they published it, and it was a fast process. And so that was my third breakthrough that I had in life. And now just I help people to have similar experiences, to just be able to open up their heart, to be able to be in that zone, to achieve something that in normal situation they cannot.
Okay. All right. So um, we have some questions. We have our number one fan. I'm going to introduce you to her. Her name is American Fox. She is the podcast number one superhero, as well as number one fan and number one supporter. So the first question she had, you really did state it through the three breakthroughs that you had, was what was your life like growing up? Um, so if you want to elaborate a little more on that, that's fine.
So what was my life growing up was I had those ups and downs, and before those breakthroughs I was on my toes all the time.
Okay.
I had to be careful about people because I thought that they're going to hurt me and I have to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the fight and flight mode most of my life before those breakthroughs. Because when you have your childhood past, the childhood, I mean before you go to school. You're on a playground playing and you're enjoying life. You're on the slide, you're all on the swing, and you're enjoying your life and you are screaming with other kids and you have a, a lot of joyful moments and you're protected and you are provided with all the things that you need by your parents or caregivers and you're happy. And then what happens is that we go to school. Soon as we go to school, we have to sit straight in the class. We have to do the homework. We have to learn things that is difficult. We have to just listen to the teacher. And we go to the yard, we get pushed by other students all over. And we develop that kind of wall, that kind of mindset that life is not my friend anymore. What happened to the friendly life that I had? Now I feel that life is my enemy. Life is hostile, so I have to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
So we start that kind of guard, having that guard with us. And the
Mm-hmm.
same thing happened to me. As soon as I went to school, I wasn't that happy kid anymore. I felt I was betrayed somehow by life. Or sometimes you feel that you put the fingers on your parents. You say that why did they send me to school? I felt very good at home. Now they sent me to school. You feel betrayed. So
Mm-hmm.
you start developing that kind of mindset that I have to just be careful around people because they might harm me.
Okay. All right. So the
I,
next question.
yeah, I was in that situation until I had my breakthroughs.
Okay. Believe it or not, I'm still living mine, to be honest with you. So most of these questions that American Fox is bringing out is kind of aimed at me. So as these questions go through, she's kind of giving you an idea of who she's talking about in reference to these questions. Um, it you know it because I'm going through a situation right now in my life where I'm thinking about isolating myself from everybody because of not just. I'm not saying I was feeling betrayed, but mainly because I was just treated like dirt. I was having people telling me how to run my life without me telling me how to run my life. And I became my own worst enemy to the point where, like I I just want to get away, like you were stating that, fight or flight. Well, I'm more the flight than the fight anymore. So the next question that American Fox has for you is this. There we go. All right. How do you? Oops, sorry. How do you find happiness in your life?
Yeah, that's a very good question because, you know, I always thought that happiness should be given to me by the outer circumstances. So I was looking for happiness and I was looking for everywhere. And based on the situations, sometimes I was happy, sometimes I was sad. Then I discovered something very interesting. I discovered that happiness is different than joy. Happiness depends upon outer circumstances, outer people, other experiences that you have based on whatever you experience in life. And sometimes you see the face of happiness, and sometimes it turns into sadness because they are the two faces of the same coin. And it depends upon other people in other situations that you experience. But joy is something else. Joy doesn't have any opposite first. So we don't have an opposite for joy. And joy comes from inside. It's not from outside. It is not dependent upon the outer situations. That is the beauty of that. When you have that source of joy inside, it gives you happiness all the time because you're carrying that energy. It is coming from inside. So it doesn't matter what the situation is on the outside. You can be in a terrible situation, but as long as you have that source of joy, the connection to the source of joy inside, you're happy.
Okay.
So, yeah, that is how you can find happiness. You have to find the source of happiness first. Source of happiness is not outside, it is in your heart.
That is a very good thought. In reference to finding it within your heart, and that's one thing I've lived with. Thinking that like people that that you're involved with, and they tend to be the support and guide you and are there with you, and then you start to feel like they're more than just there to be the support. They turn around and become your heart, and
Mhm.
that's excuse me, one thing I started to feel. But I was looking for happiness outside as well, and within that happiness kind of broke what was inside that happiness heart that I built. Um, so it it leads. That's why it leads me to want to like just leave everyone because I don't want to ruin their happiness and their lives by being around. It's not like I'm acting like a being suicidal. It's just I just want to step back and let everybody enjoy their life, and I just watch from the like watching the outside looking in, you know,
Mhm.
and that's like you mentioned earlier in reference to life not being your friend. Well, maybe that's how I looked at life at me not being mine. Being on the outside looking in and watching everybody enjoying life, and you're watching them being feeling miserable and wondering why you can't have that life, why that life didn't come, stuff like that. So the next question that American Fox has for us, for you, is: can one find forgiveness if they are stubborn?
Yeah, that is another good question that she has. So I'm just gonna elaborate on that and see what we can get out of it. The
Okay.
topic of forgiveness.
Okay.
And we all have that kind of experiences
Mm-hmm.
that we blame ourselves or we blame others for things that has happened to our life.
Mm-hmm.
So we point fingers
Yep.
towards someone or even towards ourselves, feeling like shame and guilt is directing that kind of not being satisfied and directing it to ourselves. And that creates a kind of things that we point the fingers to others as well. We say that they are responsible for my failure, for the experiences that I went through, and those kind of things. So I want to start with something that you might have heard before. I have it in my book. It is called the law of 100% responsibility. What does it mean? If I'm 50% responsible for whatever happened in my life, if something is happening that I don't like it, I take all the blame towards that 50% that is not mine. I say somebody else has done this to me. So I'm in the state of victim consciousness in that situation.
Mhm.
I'm victimizing myself
Yeah.
and saying that other people caused that for me. So when I'm a victim, I'm powerless.
Hmm.
I don't have any power to change the situation when I'm in a victim mode. So sometimes we say, I am responsible 99%, but
Hmm.
1% is towards somebody else. They caused that kind of thing in my life.
Hmm.
What happens is that, again, in that situation, we blame all the things to that 1% that other people have done to us.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter if it's 1% or 50% or 99%. As long as there is a slight moment of thinking about somebody else has done that to me, it takes me to the victim consciousness. And I am 100% powerless in that situation. Do you want to be in that situation? No, because we want to be powerful. We want to be able to change the scenario. How can we change the scenario and have all the power in our hand is to take 100% responsibility for things that have not even caused by us, by others, things that I have in my life that is caused by others, but I take 100% responsibility to be able to change it. That is the reason I want to be in control. I want to change the scenario. I don't want to be a victim. So I take that 100% responsibility. It helps me to be powerful, to be able to change the scenario. So that is the first thing that I wanted to mention. The second is we all carry trapped emotions. Sometimes you're driving back home from work and somebody cuts you off in the traffic. You get mad, start yelling at that person and swearing and that kind of things. And then you go home, talk to other people about the crazy drivers that are on the road, and you talk to your friend about that kind of race who are driving like crazy, the other stuff. So we mentalize it and it becomes a trap emotion of anger, and we carry that trap emotion of anger. It gets stored in your body, it
Hmm.
gets stored in your liver or somewhere else in your body. The size is the size of a tennis ball. You carry it all over the place when you go. You are vibrating with that vibration of anger from that time on. So it means that when situation arises, you get mad, you snap on things without any reason or something like that. You get mad fast. So that energy that you're carrying is causing you to be angry.
Hmm.
And it's the same for other emotions that we have. All of us are carrying more than 200 of those emotions. So if I'm acting the same behavior all the time, or some odd behavior, whatever, it is based on the emotions that I'm carrying.
Hmm.
And if somebody else is acting strangely towards me, their action is based on their trap emotions that they are carrying. It is not them. It is not me. Why? Because I cannot say I am my emotions.
Hmm.
Why? Because if my emotion changes, I should be a separate person. I should be a different person. I cannot say that I am my physical body. If I be my physical body, what happens if I cut my hand and put it in front of me? I should be a different person, but I'm not. I'm something else. I cannot say that I'm my thoughts. Otherwise, if I don't think about anything, I shouldn't exist. but I'm still existing. So I am a consciousness that is behind all those things. Those are the layers that I'm wearing, like a shirt, a white shirt I wear. I go outside, it gets dirty, and there's a piece of a stain on the shirt, so it can be washed. So when I'm saying I am angry, I am associating myself with that anger. So it is not a correct statement. I should be saying I am carrying the emotion of anger because I am something else. I'm beyond all those, but I'm carrying a bunch of energies.
Okay.
So when you look at yourself that way, you can go to the process of forgiveness because you see yourself carrying all those emotions. You can forgive yourself for the mistakes that you made and those kind of things. And then you start forgiving others as well. You start developing a compassionate feeling towards others because they are carrying all those energies that causes them to behave like that. So you are more compassionate towards them. So that compassion can erase the negative thought that you have about themselves. So you start forgiving them, and even you start helping them out to find out who they really are because they are not their emotions.
Yeah. I kind of learned that, but I'm kind of the opposite in reference to it. And excuse me, in reference to that question, like I said, it was aimed because of me. Because like I've mentioned, and I've mentioned on other podcasts, I'm my own worst enemy. I've been my own worst enemy for years, dating back way back to the point where I'm I take responsibility for what I do, and I'll forgive everybody else, but I will never forgive me for what I've done because of the mindset that I had, like you said, the trapped emotions. And, you know, excuse me a second. I had those so called friends that will tell you, oh, you know, stop acting like a baby, you know, like grow up, you know. But the thing is, it's hard when you make the attempt to face that stubbornness, to face to forgive oneself. So it gets back to the fight or flight, and once I couldn't put up anymore, I just gave up and let the flight begin. Um, so that's why this question that was brought up about finding forgiveness, even if a person is stubborn, was aimed at me.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that
uh,
stubbornness is an emotion as well. So
mhm,
that is an emotion. We carry that emotion.
yeah,
Why? Because we had some experience in life that we developed that kind of energy and we are carrying that. So we have to bring that to the surface as well. And that is the first step, that we recognize that we are stubborn,
mhm,
because it is not easy to see things in ourselves. We deny the things that everybody else is telling us that we have that kind of a specific behavior, but we just start fighting with them. Why are you saying that? Why are you accusing me of being this and being that? We don't accept those easily. So
mhm,
if we be able to see something in ourselves, that is a big moving forward. It is important. We have to
yeah.
appreciate that we can see something in ourselves, even if it's a stubbornness,
Yeah.
because that
Well,
is energy.
I'm sorry. What? Because one thing that people do know about me is I'm the nicest person in the world. I can be nice to everybody else except me. And like I said, because of I was picked on in school and put down and really it's really hard to say. But I like I said, I got myself to the point where I was on the outside looking in. Like when I was a kid and there was dances, I was always on the side, you know, watching everybody dance, and I'm like, well, why aren't I out there? And then when I made the attempts to go out there, I wind up either feeling stupid, quote unquote, or ridiculed, you know, or belittled because I wasn't the greatest dancer either. And then I just wind up going back to the side. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to try it anymore. And then I even tried with, and it, even into relationships, you know, try to see. I'll start a conversation with some, and sometimes it'll work out, and sometimes I'll wind up saying something that'll freak them out to the point where, like, they want nothing to do with you. I mean, and it winds up hurting, and then I wind up taking like if and I will sense that feeling if someone's uncomfortable around me. That I'm like, you know what? Okay, this person is not interested. Walk away, and and then I'll wind up apologizing later for making them feel uncomfortable. And then I'll start criticizing myself for that happening, and the belittling, and and bringing it into the like you said, the stored emotions. So, like I said, American Fox, when she brought these questions out, she's aiming them at me. So, and she's a sweetheart. She acts like a friend, but deep down, and this is my stored reaction about her, is like there's more to it than just the friendship. I see the relationship in there, but that again is in my stored feelings of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, the next question that she has for you is: do you coach people to become wealthier?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. So, yeah, before I go into that area, I just want to mention something. Maybe it helps you or other listeners that they are here. So, I know that you had it hard on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is that we are able to make a decision now to be kinder to ourselves. How? You're not your physical body.
Mm-hmm.
When you stand in front of the mirror, we notice our weak points that we have. It might be appearance or might be whatever that we usually pay attention to the negativity
Yes.
more. So
Yes.
that is normal.
Yes.
But we have the power to change it. How? Instead of paying attention to negative aspects that you discovered about yourself, going through those experiences, we can pay attention to the qualities that is unique that we have, that nobody else might have those. You mentioned about you can be the nicest person in the world
Mm-hmm.
at heart.
Yeah.
So whatever we pay attention to, it grows. It's like a magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that is called reticular activating system. Whatever that is important to us, we pay attention to. We buy a new car, we notice that car all over the place. That before we didn't even see them,
Mm-hmm.
those cars. But now it's all over the place. Why? Because it is important to us, so we pay attention to that. Whatever we pay attention, it just increases. So we can choose what we pay attention to. If you pay attention to your shortcomings,
Mm-hmm.
you make them grow.
Okay.
But if you pay attention to your capabilities, unique capabilities, all of us are a unique spark that
Mm-hmm.
is totally different than others. If we pay attention to those, we develop those more.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes us feel better, and then it makes us, when we go somewhere and we're paying attention to our capabilities, wherever we go we spread the light
Mm-hmm.
around us. So you become the source of light, not only for yourself and for others as well. Wherever you go to a dark place because you are the source of light, so you illuminate everything and everyone in there.
Mm-hmm.
See yourself as that by
Okay.
paying attention to the qualities, the unique qualities that you have that nobody else might have those kind of qualities. Can we
Okay.
make that decision now?
I deep down, I really couldn't because it built up enough of a wall that I couldn't break. But I will tell you, and I will state this for the record. Like I said, American Fox brought all these questions out, and she's been like I've been saying about the stored feelings and so on. I she tries, she doesn't try. She does the best possible to break those walls for me to open up and say, you know what? I am a good person. I am this. I am that. But as soon as I start to see it, I'm like, wait a minute, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm this. I'm 270 pounds and I look ugly. As compared to when I was in school, I could have said I was okay, but I still wind up from being picked on and put down and so on. It wind up sinking in to the point where it kind of anchored itself into my life. So as much as I tried or make attempts to fight it, that anchor won't come up. As much as I want to dig around that anchor and lift it out, it gets harder because as as the help that I was getting really doesn't turn out to help, or the 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 view that you have of that person winds up not being the view that you want, is being the, or let me say it this way. The focus that I have on the person isn't the focus that the person has on me. And when I look at that, then that anchor starts to get deeper because they're like, okay, this person's not for you because either you're not great looking, or you treat them like dirt, or you tell them what to do, or something, some type of excuse will come out,
Mhm.
and people will even tell you, could even tell you, in reference to me, that all I do is skirt around from the outside. Like I'm not actually being truthful, but I'm skirting the truth. But when I'm actually, the thing is, I'm actually being truthful, but people don't see it that way. People see it as, yeah, you're not, you're lying to your own self, you know? And I mean, I was told that. And when I was told that, I, again, I even got even more frustrated with myself
Mhm.
because this is not the person I was supposed to be.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It is it is normal for all of us. We have those kind of beliefs about ourselves that is developed and is in our subconscious mind. And subconscious mind is a million times stronger than our conscious uh, uh, analyzing ourselves or something like that, or making decisions. So that's why we make a decision, we start doing something, but as we go along we cannot finish it because we're battling with our own subconscious mind, with the programming, with the beliefs, with the self image, with whatever we have. So I'm going to give you an exercise. Maybe it's helpful for the listeners as well. So, what is that exercise? It's a simple exercise. That exercise is changing our view from negative to positive. How it's going to happen? It's not going to happen in just one moment. We have to develop a skill. How do we develop a skill? It takes about 30 days. So
okay.
I'm going to give you an exercise. That exercise you're going to be doing for 30 days. What is
Okay.
it? That you grab a notebook, you
Okay.
pick it as your journal.
Okay.
And then every day before you go to bed, you just find something during the day that gave you a good feeling, whatever it was.
Okay.
It might be drinking a coffee. It might be going outside and the sun is shining and you feel happy or something. It can be as small as that. It doesn't matter what it is. You write it down. A couple of those things that happened in your life that gave you a pleasant feeling.
Okay.
And then you do it the next day. You do it the next day. You if you stop doing it, it's like a chain.
Uh huh.
You break the chain, you have to start over. You have to do it 30 days continuously. And what happens is that after 30 days, you start changing your view towards the valuable things in
Mm-hmm.
your life, changing your view about yourself. And that is a big shift
Mm-hmm.
in your life. That is how we can build a habit that is helping us along the way, not hurting us. So you need an accountability partner for that exercise because you have to report to them that you write something positive in your journal every day. So you can ask American Fox to be your accountability partner, and then you write down something positive every night, and then message her, send her a message and say that I did. It can be as simple as that. But you do it every day, every night for 30 days. It changes your view because our view is normally set on the negative sides of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But everything has two sides because it is the law of polarity.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has two sides,
Mm-hmm.
negative and positive. But our factory setting is on negative. So we can change it. We can change it. Why? And how? With that simple exercise. For 30 days, you just write down something positive in your journal about yourself and about your feeling. And then you develop that kind of sense that helps you to pay attention to those more, and they get increased as you pay attention more and more. And it changes the snowball to just go larger and larger. And then all of a sudden, you feel that you are facing the friendly side of life. You're not comparing yourself to others. You don't need to compare yourself with others. You don't need to just be under their opinion. You say that I just analyze whatever I have. If it's useful, I take it. If it's not useful, I leave it. I don't need to carry that belief that other people think that I am this and I am that. I don't need to carry that. Why do I carry it? Why am I carrying it? I don't need to. You can go through your beliefs one by one and see if they are useful or not. And then you decide if it's not useful, I don't need to carry that. If it's
Okay.
useful, it's helping me. But it all starts with that journal exercise.
Okay. So let's get back to the question that she had about um, do you coach people to be wealthier?
Yes, I do. How?
Yes.
Wealth is a mindset.
So, so
So, wealth is a mindset. What it means is that we might be in a situation that we discover that we are not gaining whatever we worth because of some beliefs that we have.
okay.
So we
So,
have to work on those. We have to work on those. Those are essential. Those are the self image that we are carrying with ourselves. I give you an example. There are a lot of people who win lotteries,
mhm,
and then a lot of them file bankruptcy after a couple of years. Why? Because the self image that they have is not matching with the wealth that they receive. What does it mean? They receive that wealth, and then they do stupid things unconsciously to lose all that weight, to go back to the self image that they had about themselves. They were more comfortable with the people that they were dealing with before that wealth.
mhm,
So the subconscious mind do the self-sabotage process to bring them back to that scenario that they are more comfortable with. So if we be able to do the reverse, we take our self-image, upgrade it to the level that we want to be by removing those inner blocks that we have. Some of the blocks are emotional, some of the blocks are mental, the beliefs that we have. So we have all kind of things. We've all heard about things like money is the root of all bad things in our life. All the wealthy people are crook or something like that. We are programmed by those thoughts, and those are in our subconscious mind. It is not. It might not be in our conscious level, but
mhm.
we carry those kind of beliefs, and that's why when we want to get wealthier, what happens is that we have that code that it says all the wealthy people are crook. So what happens is that we cannot get over it. We do self-sabotage. So we have to fix that first. We have to fix that self-image first. Then
Mhm.
everything falls into place.
Okay. All right. And the last question that American Fox has for you is how did you find the holistic approach?
Yeah, that is another good question that she has. So, holistic approach. Let's give you an example about those kind of four aspects that we have our experiences. Sometimes we have problem in our physical body, and sometimes it's in emotional. The source is emotional. Sometimes it's mental, and sometimes it's a spiritual. Those are four aspects that we have. But the thing is that if I focus only on physical, what happens? My experience was I was carrying that pain for 15 years. None of those specialists could help me because they were just looking at the physical, not anything else. They couldn't see those trap emotions in an MRI. So they said, there's nothing there. We cannot see anything. No pulled muscle, no tension, or nothing. We don't know what's happening. So that is the approach that we have when we are narrowing down on one specific thing. But things are related to each other. I had those trapped emotions, which are on the emotional level, affecting my physical body. So they are interrelated, emotional and physical. What about the mental? Mental can be strong. I give you an example how strong it can be. I met a friend of mine. She came from another country and she was living with us for a while, and she was a nurse back home. She told me a story. She said that when I was back home in the hospital I was working, two people came. Both had headaches, severe headaches.
Mm.
So they were examined by doctors. The first one was diagnosed with severe migraine. The second one was diagnosed with a tumor in the head, a big tumor that was advanced tumor. So the doctors said to the second person, the tumor is very close to somewhere that we cannot even take it out, and it is very advanced.
Mhm.
You only have 1 month. Say goodbye to your family and friends. You're gonna you're not gonna be living after a month. So the exact thing happened to that person. That person died within a month. The second person,
Uh,
because of that tumor. So the parents of that person went to the hospital to grab the files of their children, their son. What happened was they opened the file, and inside on the exams, somebody else's name was on those exams. So somehow their file was switched by mistake.
mm,
The first person and the second person. So the second person who was told that he had a tumor had migraine, but he died because he was told by the authorities that he's going to be dead.
mm,
The first person, the tumor disappeared because he was told that it's just a migraine, and they gave him some medications and injections, and he was fine.
mm.
So
Wow.
our belief can kill us and can cure us. That
Okay.
is that important. So that's why you can choose now to keep your beliefs. If you say I cannot, it's gonna happen that way. You cannot, and I am sure that you cannot because you're saying it.
Mhm,
But if you say I can, you can change the course of things.
mhm.
So which one do you choose?
Yeah. Well, right now, like I said, the way I've been going at it is the I cannot because of that deep, like the anchor, like I said, that's in the trapped emotions. It it set up a it, like I said, it gained an anchor and went deep. So, and like I said, with American Fox, she has made many attempts, and still to this point, even bringing these questions, makes the attempt to get into my. Well, she gets it. The way I can state this is this. Excuse me. It's like I got a frog in my throat. Literally. Um, she's gotten deep into me to the point where she knows how I can be. She knows she sees the better of me, like you mentioned about with doing the journal exercise. She sees that better in me. There are some that doesn't see that better in me, but it's either I'm afraid I want to see it or I don't want to see it. Only because of that anchor that was really set into my emotions. And as much as I try to stay to the point where I'll still compliment everybody else, which that part I can manage. I can compliment everybody and, like I said, be fine. But as soon as someone compliments me, tells me I'm sexy, I'm like, no. And I think one thing I will say, and if my ex-wife was to hear this, you know how you mentioned earlier how you start blaming people. I don't blame her because it was the same mindset she has of I'm fat and I'm ugly. Well, somehow it kind of rubbed off on me while we were married. Because I used to tell her how beautiful she was and be that happy person. But she would turn around and throw it right back at me. She's like, no, I'm fat and I'm ugly. You know, but she would tell me I'm sexy, and I'm like, okay. But now if you tell me I'm sexy, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm really not. Because of that anchor. That I call it the anchor. I'll call it an anchor now. That's lodged into my emotions, my trapped emotions. I mean, the love does kind of quote unquote leak out, but that's the love for everybody else. The love for me is still drilled into that anchor. Mm-hmm. So that's, like I said, that's the battle I have. That's the stubbornness that American Fox brings out. But I also realized too, and my mother, who is still with me, who's still here at the age of 3, sorry, she just turned 93. She used to get at my father. My father used to be stubborn. So I feel like I picked up traits from him. And I don't think anybody sees it, but I think I picked up things from within the family that became part of that anchor of the stubbornness and the I'm fat and I'm ugly, all those, all that. Do I blame them? No. I'll blame me because I absorbed them into me. I let it go into my system and say, you know what? maybe you're this. You're practically this. And like I said, American Fox does her best in our conversations to dig out that anchor and literally throw it out of me. And it gets harder and harder because as she's digging it, I start putting more into it by finding something else.
Mm.
So,
okay, do you want me to tell you what I see?
go ahead.
So, your name is Joey.
Yes.
And what I see is a person who is doing, who is hosting a podcast.
Okay.
In that podcast, he is distributing the wisdom throughout the world.
Okay.
Whatever that comes out of the podcast that you have, and you are distributing that to the whole world.
Right.
Do you think it is a small thing? I think it is a huge thing. It has a lot of, you have to have a lot of courage to be able to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It is not something that everybody can do, and you are doing it. I'm going to give you an exercise.
Okay.
Simple exercise. Every morning you go stand in front of the mirror. Instead of looking at yourself, your body, and the things, you look at your eyes.
Okay.
Start staring at your eyes in the mirror to the point that it brings a smile on your face.
Well, that's
Because
a challenge in itself. I'll tell you that right now.
it does that.
I mean, right now I can laugh at all. I can laugh about it, but deep down, like once this podcast is over, I'm like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm out of everybody's way, and so on.
But if you do it on a daily basis, what happens is that after a while, you are passing your view from the surface to the deeper level of yourself. That is the penetrating look that you have that goes inside, inside your heart,
Right.
inside the big heart that you have, that you're spreading the words of wisdom, the
Yeah.
valuable thing that you're doing for the humanity.
Okay.
So
Wow.
you are going to be able to see that after a while. You're not seeing your face, you're not seeing your body, you're not seeing whatever that is appearing on the mirror. You are looking at specifically your eyes, and that goes penetrated into your heart. So you're seeing your big heart that you have, and you start admiring that heart that you have, and then you don't care who says what, because you have that heart that is producing something valuable, distributing something valuable to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to do it on a daily basis, every morning,
Okay.
and then at night you just write something nice about yourself in a journal.
Okay. All right. The other thing in reference to that is I work at night 2 nights a week. So I don't get that opportunity to, like, because I only work an overnight. So, like, I, come home in the morning. But in reference to the exercises, I thank you for suggesting them to me. I do. And definitely, one thing that I do state in reference to this podcast itself is I I always try to get proof that I'm making a difference. Okay. And I have two people that told me I've made a difference in their lives. One was somebody that lived nearby me, and the other one was American Fox. But I always try to, I'm not saying that two people mean the world, but I always try to want more. It turns into one thing I've brought out in a podcast is when you're wanting more, you start to get greedy. Greedy, saying, where's this proof? How am I really doing something? So etc. So it starts to become to feel like greed, and then I get angry because I'm starting to get greedy in the wants and saying, hey, back off, and let it go. But I wind up just keep going forward, and it gets to the point where the real actual words come out, or to the point where they're like, you know what, I'm done with you. I can't, if you're going to be like this, I want no part of it. And then it gets back into the trapped feelings, that anchor. It gets right back to that anchor saying, hey, you know what? Congratulations. You just made me go a little deeper into your soul, into your feelings. So, I do the best I can, but at the same time, it's like the old, or not old, but it's like a song by Kate Hill called "Running Up the Hill," or not Kate, I forget. Well, but there's a classic song. It's called "Running Up the Hill." Well, the way I look at me is I'm running up the hill, but it's not. It's like I'm on a treadmill and not going anywhere. So maybe looking into these exercises could help me, but at the same time, I'm going to doubt myself on it because, people will say, "Oh, you should go see a psychologist, or you should go see a psychiatrist." And I went to a psychiatrist, just to give you a brief idea. And what you just mentioned about how this podcast is, that's what the psychiatrist said to me. That these podcasts was my therapy. And I was done. But at the same time, I had gone to a psychologist, and I was like, yeah, I mentioned what the psychiatrist said, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm really doing something, even for me, out of it. And I wind up stopping the therapy because of the trapped feeling anchor got that deep to the point where, like, you know what? Give up, because you're not going to get that anchor out of you. So that's why I stopped going to a psychologist. I mean, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that," and then I will curse them out because I don't want anybody telling me what to do. And that's the other part of the anchor that I'm always fighting, is people saying, "Oh, you need to do this, this and this. But if I'm saying I'm doing this, they're like, you're wasting your money or you're wasting your time or you're wasting when you need to do this, this, and this. So Farzin, I thank you so much for the advice and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You're welcome to come on anytime. How can people reach out to you?
So my website is joyfulfix.com,
Okay.
because I believe fixing things shouldn't be a painful process. It can be joyful.
Okay.
And I help them to go through that joyful path towards success in health, wealth, relationship, and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
The four aspects that we have. So I have a type of quiz that I have developed for those four aspects of life, which is health, wealth, relationship, and happiness. And when people go to the contact page of my website, they get access to that free quiz. So there are 20 questions. They answer those 20 questions. It gives them a score, which is the life quality score. So if you want to know what your life quality score is, you can just answer those 20 questions and it gives you a score and gives you some instructions on how you can improve your score. So it is accessible through the contact page of my website. And so they can record their voice in there as well.
All right.
If there is something that they want to ask, they can record their voice in there. I receive that as a private message, the secure message, and then I continue my communication with them. We can set aside a free session. I just give them the roadmap of wherever they are in life, wherever they want to be, and then the blockages that they have that they can remove to be able to get access to their destination. And I give them the roadmap. They can take it themselves, or I can help them out to go through that path much faster with joy and ease.
All right. All right. Well, Farzin, thank you so much again for being on the podcast. And thank you, everybody, for enjoying this extended Life with Joey Calvo podcast. I'm Joey Calvo. God bless you all.
Thank you.